The ships came from nowhere. No one knew their language. No one knew their faces. No one knew where they had been born. They appeared on the horizon in the year 1200 before the Common Era, and within 50 years every major civilization on Earth was gone. Gone. The Hittite Empire, gone. Mycenaean Greece, gone. The kingdom of Ugarit, gone. Cyprus, burned. The great palace cities of the Levant turned to ash and rubble. A world that had traded, written letters, built palaces, and maintained diplomatic ties for centuries collapsed so completely that it took 300 years for writing itself to return to the region. And at the center of every account, carved into stone by terrified kings and desperate pharaohs, was the same description. Men from the sea, enemies who came from the islands, from some distant place no one could name. They had no single homeland. They had no unified language. They carried their women, their children, and their cattle on ox carts, as if they had nowhere left to go. Nobody knows exactly who they were. Nobody knows where they came from. Nobody knows what happened to them after. But we know what they left behind. A world reduced to silence. Welcome. If you are new here, thank you for being here today. In this documentary, we are going to follow the complete story of the Sea Peoples, the most destructive and mysterious force in ancient history. We will start with the world they destroyed, the interconnected Bronze Age civilization that had taken 1,000 years to build. Then we will follow the two figures whose stories form the spine of this documentary. Ramesses III, the last great pharaoh of Egypt, who watched the world collapse around him and chose to fight. And a nameless warrior who came across the water with everything he owned, looking for somewhere to land. We will walk through the great battles, the evidence carved on temple walls, and the theories that scholars have argued over for 2 centuries. And we will end with the question that nobody has ever fully answered. Who were they? Before we begin, if you love history told through the people who actually lived it, subscribe to this channel right now and hit the bell. Share this with someone who would love it. It takes 2 seconds and it means everything to us. To understand what the Sea Peoples destroyed, you have to understand what the Bronze Age world actually was. By 1200 before the Common Era, the Eastern Mediterranean had been a functioning international civilization for over 1,000 years. Egypt was the wealthiest nation on earth, its pharaohs commanding armies of tens of thousands. The Hittite Empire dominated Anatolia and northern Syria, a power so formidable that Egypt had signed a formal peace treaty with it, the first recorded peace treaty in history. The Mycenaeans ruled the Greek peninsula, building palace cities at Mycenae, Tiryns, and Pylos, filled with scribes, warriors, and stored wealth. The kingdom of Ugarit on the Syrian coast was one of the great trading hubs of the world, its merchants dealing in copper from Cyprus, tin from Afghanistan, grain from Egypt, and timber from Lebanon. Kings wrote to each other on clay tablets, addressing each other as brothers. A ship that sank off the coast of Turkey around this time, the Uluburun shipwreck, was found carrying goods from at least 7 different cultures. This was a globalized world. And then, within the span of roughly 50 years, it all stopped. The destruction came in waves. Archaeologists have found the evidence in layer after layer of burned ash at sites across the Eastern Mediterranean. The palace at Mycenae, burned. The palace at Tiryns, burned. The palace at Pylos, burned. The Hittite capital of Hattusa, burned so thoroughly that its massive stone walls cracked from the heat. The city of Ugarit, burned and never rebuilt. A letter found at Ugarit captures the final hours of that city in exact detail. The king of Ugarit wrote to the king of Cyprus in desperation. The enemy ships have already come. They have set fire to my towns and done great damage to my country. He wrote that his army was away fighting in Hittite territory, that his ships were stationed in Lycia, that the country was abandoned to itself. The letter was never sent. It was found in the ruins of Ugarit, still in the clay tablet workshop, never baked, never dispatched. The city fell before the messenger could leave. That letter is the closest thing we have to a first-hand account from the victims, and its author did not survive to tell us who attacked him. Ramesses III was 30 years old when he came to the throne of Egypt in 1184 before the Common Era. By then, the collapse was already underway. The Hittites were gone. The Mycenaeans were gone. Syria and Canaan were in chaos. Reports were reaching Egypt of vast movements of people, entire populations on the move, pushing southward through the Levant with their wagons and their herds. The inscriptions at his temple at Medinet Habu, built outside the city of Thebes, tell us what he knew. They record that a great conspiracy had been formed among the islands. They name the peoples involved: the Peliset, the Checker, the Sheklesh, the Denyen, the Weshesh. These names in Egyptian hieroglyphics are the only written record we have of the sea peoples in their own time. Ramesses watched the horizon and understood that Egypt was next. He had already fought one invasion in his 5th year on the throne, when a Libyan coalition had pushed at his western border. He had survived that. Now a larger threat was forming. He had to prepare. And Ramesses, whatever his other failings, was a man who understood how to prepare for war. The man on the other side of that war had no name that history recorded. He was one of thousands, perhaps tens of thousands, moving across the sea and land toward Egypt with everything he owned. Historians believe the sea peoples were not a single nation but a coalition of displaced peoples. They were driven from their homes by drought, famine, political collapse, and the destruction of the trade networks that had sustained Bronze Age civilization. Some groups are tentatively identified. The Peliset may have come from the Aegean world, possibly Crete. They are widely believed to be the same people the Bible later calls the Philistines. The Sheklesh may have originated from Sicily. The Shurdan may have been connected to Sardinia. The Denyen may have links to the Homeric Dinans, the Greeks of the Iliad. But these identifications are hypotheses. They are based on phonetic similarities in names and scattered archaeological evidence. For the warrior himself, the man in the feathered helmet carved onto the walls of Medinet Habu, we have nothing. No language. No story. No homeland that we can confirm. He moved south with his family on the ox cart because whatever was behind him was worse than whatever was ahead. The battles came in the 8th year of Ramesses. They came from 2 directions. The land force pushed south through the Levant along the coastal road, a massive column of warriors backed by ox carts carrying women and children. The sea force moved simultaneously along the coast in ships, coordinating with the land advance. Ramesses met the land force first, at the battle historians call the Battle of Jahi, fought somewhere in the region of modern southern Lebanon. His inscriptions describe the scale of the threat with unusual frankness. No land could stand before their arms, he wrote. The Hittites, gone. Kod, Carchemish, Arzawa, and Elashia, cut off at once. They came with fire prepared before them. Then he met them in the field, and his chariots destroyed them. But the sea force was still coming. He raced back to Egypt. He lined the shores of the Nile Delta with ranks of archers. He assembled his fleet inside the river mouths, hidden, waiting. When the enemy ships entered the Nile, they sailed into an ambush. The shore archers opened fire. The Egyptian fleet emerged and blocked the exit. The sea peoples were trapped between fire from the banks and ships ramming them from the water. The relief at Medinet Habu shows the result in vivid carved stone. Bodies in the water. Ships overturned. prisoners dragged ashore by their hair. Ramesses I. Egypt survived, and that survival is itself one of the great mysteries of the Bronze Age collapse. Every other major power fell. Egypt alone held. But it held at enormous cost. The treasury was drained. The army was exhausted. The eastern provinces of the empire gradually fell away in the decades after the battle. They were settled by the very people who had tried to invade, including the Palisade, who established themselves along the coast of Canaan as the Philistines of the Bible. Ramesses died around 1153 before the Common Era, and the pharaohs who followed him were weaker, their hold on Egypt fragile. The new kingdom staggered on for another century, but never recovered its power. The world Ramesses had fought to save was already fading. The great trading networks never fully recovered. The palace economies never rebuilt. Literacy in most of the affected regions vanished for generations. A world that had taken over 1,000 years to build was, within 50 years, reduced to scattered villages trying to remember what their grandfathers had known. And the sea peoples themselves, after the failure at the Delta, disappeared from the historical record almost entirely. The question that has consumed scholars for 2 centuries is simple. Who were they? The term sea peoples was not invented until the 19th century, when French Egyptologist Emmanuel de Rouge first used the phrase while studying the Medinet Habu inscriptions. The ancient Egyptians never had a single word for them. They described them by origin, as coming from the islands, from the sea, from distant lands. Modern theories fall into several categories. The climate theory argues that a prolonged drought across the eastern Mediterranean beginning around 1200, before the Common Era destroyed harvests, collapsed agricultural systems, and set entire populations in motion. Pollen studies and geological records do show evidence of severe drought in this period. The systems collapse theory argues that Bronze Age civilization was too interconnected to survive the failure of any major component. Lose the copper from Cyprus, lose the tin from Afghanistan, lose the grain surplus from Egypt, and the whole system unravels. The migration theory argues that the sea peoples were themselves the victims of earlier collapses further west, driven eastward and southward by forces that began generations before the attacks on Egypt. None of these theories is complete. All of them are probably partially true. The sea peoples left almost nothing behind in their own voice. No texts. No buildings we can identify as theirs. No confirmed homeland. What we have is the record of their impact, carved into temple walls by the kings who survived them and buried in the ash layers of the cities that did not. The warrior in the feathered helmet on the wall of Medinet Habu stares out across 3,000 years. His expression is frozen in Egyptian stone, rendered by an artist who saw him as the enemy, as the threat, as the face of everything that nearly destroyed the world. But he was also a man who had come from somewhere, who had watched his own world collapse before he ever reached Egypt. He carried his family on that ox cart because there was nowhere left to go back to. He lost the battle of the Nile Delta. Some of his people survived and became the Philistines, the coastal neighbors of the Israelites, remembered in the Bible as enemies of David and Samson, their true origins already forgotten. 3,000 years later, we still cannot answer the most basic question. Where did he come from? The world he helped destroy left us archives, palaces, and diplomatic correspondence. He left us nothing, not even his name.